So hello everyone and welcome to AmeriCorps Vista Service and your first day of orientation. This webinar is called Launching Your Vista Service. My name is Andy King and I'm joined today by Eric Powell. We'll be your hosts today, coming to you from Vista headquarters in Washington, D.C. You'll also see our colleagues, Jessica Birch and Calvin Landrum, supporting all of us in the chat and the Q&A. All right, so now that you know a little bit about who we are and where we're located, we want to know where you're serving. With all the people attending this webinar, it's great to get an idea of where you're located and start making connections. So this little activity involves using the annotation tool to get a visual representation. So if you look in the upper left corner of your screen, just above the W in where, you'll see a little tool that looks like a magic marker. You click on that, a menu will open, and then there's another little marker tool that appears. Click on that, or sorry, there's an arrow tool just below the marker. Click on the arrow in the toolbar and then click on the map that approximates where you're located. This way we get a sense of where you're going to be serving as a Vista member. And as you probably know, we have Vistas serving in all 50 states as well as in U.S. territories. All right, so the map is filling up with lots of colors. I really like this activity. It's a great way to get a sense of where people are located. And I can see already we've got people in pretty much all four corners of the continental U.S. We've got someone in Alaska, a couple in Hawaii. So it's great. And if you are curious, like, am I the only Vista around? We'll look and see, because even on this session, we've probably got other people who are located nearby. All right, it looks like everyone has had a chance to click the map. So the point here is that there are lots of Vistas, and whether they're near or far, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can connect with them through the Vista campus. And it's great to have a support network of other Vistas as you get started serving. Okay, so on this session, here's what we hope you'll get out of today's presentation. By the end of it, we hope that you'll be able to, first of all, describe the Vista mission and the Vista program, that you'll be able to review a few of Vista's recent accomplishments, that you can identify support people and resources that can help support you throughout your Vista service, that you'll be aware of certain action items that need your attention immediately, typically by the end of today, and then lastly, we're going to administer the oath of service, which officially makes you a Vista member. All right, now I'll turn things over to Eric to get us started.
Thank you, Andy. And in addition to Andy, let me welcome you to AmeriCorps Vista. You are about to join a national movement with a very rich history. On this webinar alone, there's about 125 Vista members beginning service today. In this month, there's about 175 Vista members all across the country that are coming on board. Even more, this year, there's more than 5,000 Vista members serving in rural and urban areas in all 50 states and in several territories and tribal nations. Volunteers in Service to America, or VISTA, has been supporting and at times leading the charge towards economic equity for more than 50 years. Our strength comes from the talent, motivation, and energy of our members, soon to be one of you. So let me thank you for stepping up to share your skills and your passion to serve our community. It really is an honor for me to welcome you on behalf of the Vista program, because I hope that you really feel the warmth and the support from us and from your fellow Vista members. So now, as we're just getting to know one another, let's take a look at a few milestones in Vista's history that have led us all to this moment. The Vista program was born out of the Civil Rights Movement and the War on Poverty in the mid-60s, and social equity and economic opportunity remains our mission. As you probably know, our first volunteers were assigned in 1965 to Appalachia, Hartford, and the camps of migrant farm workers in California. President Johnson, whom you can see in this photo, said to those first Vistas, "The initials of your organization spell Vista. It is an appropriate name where you will be opening up new vistas of hope for the poor, achievement for yourself, and greatness for your nation."
So fast forward about 30 years to 1993, and the Vista program joins AmeriCorps, becoming part of a network of national service programs of the agency called the Corporation for National and Community Service, or CNCS. You may have heard some of our grantees and partners, organizations like Habitat for Humanity, City Year, Teach for America, as well as the Rockefeller Foundation and Service Year. That's in addition to the programs that we manage directly, AmeriCorps NCCC, FEMA Corps, and Senior Corps, in addition to AmeriCorps Vista. You are joining the ranks of over 220,000 Vistas who have served already. And just to name a few notables, there's a guy named George R.R. Martin you may have heard of. He happens to be the author of Game of Thrones. He served as a Vista member. There's Senator Jay Rockefeller, who was a representative of the great state of West Virginia. Ray Magliozzi, you know, he was one of Click and Clack, the Bartok brothers. And then there's also currently serving Congresswoman Gwen Moore of Wisconsin. And that's just to name a few of our notable Vista alums.
We know that the Vista program is committed to economic equity, but if someone were to ask you, what is Vista's mission? How do you think you would explain it? What really makes Vista unique in the government? Well, this is our elevator speech. The Vista program strengthens organizations that alleviate poverty through the mobilization of volunteers and resources. And in addition to our mission, there are 4 key principles that underpin the program. Ending poverty. Every Vista project and every Vista member aims to end or alleviate poverty, one person, one family, or one block at a time. Empowering communities. In contrast to parachuting in and doing good things for people, Vista members live among and involve community members in planning and carrying out the project. This is often facilitated by your sponsor, but strengthening and improving the community is our long-term goal through learning about values and beliefs, assumptions, community development principles, and principles of good practice. Third, building capacity. All Vista members aim to either increase the size of a project, increase the number of people served by the project, improve the project's efficiency, or improve the project's impact on the community. That is how we measure capacity. And creating sustainable solutions. Whatever you develop or create, a process, a system, maybe even some resources, we develop them in such a way that people will be able to use them once you're gone. If you believe that we have a responsibility to bring an end to poverty, and if you are committed to working with communities, then you are in the right place. These 4 principles guide community development for us. Community work requires coordination, even collaboration, and working together towards long-range goals. As you think about the principles we just covered, which one resonates with you, and why does it resonate with you? Maybe it's ending poverty. In the chat, a lot of you said that you wanted to help bring people out of poverty in your community. Maybe it's empowering your community because it's a passion of yours through working with community stakeholders to identify needs and putting those needs into action with the help and support of the community. Perhaps capacity building is at the heart of who you are and what you do. Maybe you see a project and can identify a plan to increase their effectiveness and engage more individuals. Or maybe you feel sustainability is something that drew you to your Vista position. Maybe you have an eye for processes and developing them in such a way that they can be used once you've left.
Well, it looks like lots of our participants already have a good sense of where they're going to be working, where their focus will be. Sustainable solutions is one that came out kind of at the top of the list. Empowering communities is right there as well. Building capacity. Of course, that's what organizations look for when they request Vista members. So it's glad to hear that that is resonating. Again, empowering communities, which is beautiful for us to see and hear.
Absolutely.
And as somebody said, with some exclamation points, ending poverty, which of course is what all of us are about here. So that's great.
And I see some people added other categories. That's wonderful, because no matter with which principle you have the strongest connection, your work as a Vista member will address all of these principles during your Vista service year. Progress in this type of work is slow and incremental, and it's important to know that our work is not just about fixing stuff. It's about sharing perspectives and skills, because the results of your work as a Vista member may not be apparent immediately nor happen overnight, which at times may be a little frustrating, but once you step back, you'll be able to see the larger changes that have resulted from your work.
All right, thank you for that participation. Now let's focus on your Vista assignment. And the best way to do that is through reviewing your assignment description, or what we call the VAD, the Vista Assignment Description. Every Vista member has a VAD, and all VADs include the following three elements. First of all, there's a project goal, which is related to or identical to the overall goal of the Vista project that you'll be serving with. Next, there are objectives. There's usually several objectives for each VAD, and each objective describes what you will achieve by the end of your Vista service year. The objectives are sort of a bridge between that overall project goal and your individual member activities. That brings us to the third element, the member activities, and they specify exactly what it is that you're going to be doing this year. These activities add up to the objectives, and the objectives should add up to the goal. Now, each of you has your own VAD, no matter how many Vistas there may be serving at your project. And because the VAD is your work plan for the year, we strongly recommend that you focus on it with your supervisor in the next few weeks, and that you refer to it throughout your whole year of service. There's a worksheet on the Starting Vista page where all the other coursework is located, and this worksheet can help you sort out your VAD's various elements. It provides some guidance and suggestions for how you and your supervisor can discuss your tasks step by step. So I want to remind you to download that worksheet and be prepared to discuss your Vista assignment description with your supervisor soon. You may want to set up a meeting with your supervisor right away if you don't already have one on the books. And the VAD is the best place to start a conversation about what it is you're going to be doing during your year of Vista service.
As Andy said, the VAD accounts for your service during the year. So let's take a look at some of the things Vista members have accomplished recently so that you will have a sense of what you might be doing. And these are the measurable, not the intangibles, which are often the most interesting. So, in 2017, last year, Vistas have raised $206 million in cash and in-kind donations for their sponsoring organizations. That's more than twice what Congress has given the AmeriCorps Vista program to run in its entirety. That's amazing. Vistas have recruited, trained, and assigned 800,000 community volunteers who collectively served more than 8 million hours in 2017. Also, the National Center for Children in Poverty estimates 16 million children in the U.S. about 1 in 5 live below the poverty line. Vista members made it possible for their sponsors to serve 3 million of those children in after-school programs, tutoring, and assistance in food security. Programs supported by Vista members served 140,000 veterans and military families. And in a single year, about 8,500 Vista members built the capacity of more than 4,500 nonprofits and public agencies, about 70% of them doing so in their hometown. Since 1965, more than 220,000 Vista members have served. So these are just some of the incredible impacts Vista members like you made, are making, and will make in the coming year. The impact you make this year depends entirely on you, and it also depends on your community, your Vista project, and on a little good luck. As you think about this question, type your answer in the chat panel so that everyone will know and learn from it. What impact do you hope to make as a Vista member? And by impact, we mean what will be the end result rather than what will your activities look like? What will happen as a consequence of your success? So take a minute to type those answers in the chat panel.
Yeah, this is somewhat of a bigger question. It's sort of like, thinking far down the road. What will things look like if you're wildly successful? What are you going to leave behind? What's going to be the mark that you leave, the legacy, perhaps, of your Vista service year?
And I see one or two, someone says, less hungry students on campus, meaning higher graduation rates. That's wonderful.
Yep, here's preserved affordable housing, which is a huge issue all across the country.
Another one about better housing living conditions for low-income people.
Access to food in our community.
More inner-city youth will be engaged and excited about their future and working towards success.
Here's one about entrepreneurism and helping low-income families find access to income, whether through job training or getting businesses going.
These are really, really good. Empowered citizens who understand that they can change their city for the better. So true.
Yeah, and here's one I was just listening to the news this morning about decrease in opioid overdose cases in the community. So you can see that no matter what you're working on, there may be other Vistas, even in this group, working on something similar. And then beyond what you're doing, Vistas are working in so many different areas and coming at poverty from so many different approaches that it's really quite amazing what it is that you're all working on. And all of it's needed. It's all very relevant and very timely because these are the things we see in the headlines of the news all the time.
So before we move on, let's quickly review what we've just covered. We looked briefly at how Vista relates to other national service programs. We then dove a little bit into the Vista mission and its key principles, and we discussed how they relate to your Vista Assignment Description, or VAD. And finally, we shared with you some of the impact Vista members have had in the past year. Now I'll turn it over to Andy to shift to some ongoing support during your year of service.
All right. So as you already know, there are two main websites that will provide you with support throughout the year and even after your year of service is finished. Those are the Vista Campus and MyAmeriCorps. You've been to both of these sites, so you probably know that MyAmeriCorps, or my.americorps.gov, is where you applied to your Vista position. It's where you've completed onboarding forms like direct deposit, and it's where you can access your Vista assignment description. It's also where, in a few weeks, you'll be able to access your living allowance statements, you can request certain benefits, and you can request what's called a service letter that provides documentation and information about the fact that you're serving as a Vista member and what that means. We'll talk a little bit about these later on. The Vista Campus, or vistacampus.gov, is where you completed your onboarding coursework and tutorials. But the Vista campus has a lot more to offer than just that onboarding stuff that you've already done. There are opportunities for ongoing learning and professional development. You can sign up for courses, you can find other Vista members, and you can learn more about all of the Vista benefits that are available to you. So let's look a little more closely, a little more in detail about the Vista campus. There's too much on the site for us to really explore all of it, but because it's an important element in helping you navigate your year of service, we want to just highlight some of those things that are going to be really important. A quick look at the navigation bar, which is at the top of each page of the campus, lets you know that there are materials to help you to live as a Vista member and to work as a Vista. So here's just a snapshot of what's under the work section. You can also locate and reach out to other Vista members under the Connect and Learn section.
Also, we offer webinars on a wide range of topics related to life as a Vista, such as living on the living allowance and using the Siegel AmeriCorps Education Award. We also offer webinars in the work section, such as building a digital ad campaign and strategizing your funding search. We do record these sessions and offer them as webinars on demand, so if you miss a session, you can always go back to it and watch it later. You will receive an invitation in the coming weeks to a webinar called Learning Opportunities for Service and Beyond, which will help you develop a concrete plan for building skills you will need to succeed. We also offer 2 longer courses to Vista members, one on volunteer mobilization and the other one on resource development and grant writing. The courses combine live webinars, online discussion groups, readings, and assignments. The courses are completely free, and if you pass, you can receive college credit recommendations. The next round of course offerings is slated May to July 2018, so early this summer. We will begin accepting applications in late April, and you'll see the link in the chat panel. Space is limited, but you can go to the online courses page on the Vista campus for more details.
All right, so let's shift now and talk about a few action items related to your benefits. AmeriCorps Vista Programs provides a lot of great benefits, but to really get the most out of them, you have to enroll or take some action. So there are a few things, a couple, that you may need to do today, and then some within the next 2 weeks. The first set of items relate to your Vista benefits, and the information that you need to make an informed decision is located on the Vista campus under the benefits page, one of the tutorials that you took when you were on the Starting Vista page of the campus. So first up is your direct deposit. You probably filled that information out already, but we just want to point out that that direct deposit information has to be absolutely correct, otherwise you won't get paid. And it's really unfortunate, but pretty much every time we have a new group of Vista starts, at least one of them makes a mistake with their direct deposit information, they don't get paid on time, and then unfortunately it takes another 2 weeks because that's when payroll will run again. It takes another 2 weeks to get paid. So we really strongly suggest you go back and look at the direct deposit information, check it against what's on your checks if you have actual paper checks, or call your bank to verify the routing number and your account number. Otherwise, we can't pay you. Secondly, is the end of service benefit. You remember that you have the choice between a cash stipend of $1,800 or an education award that you can use to pay back student loans or to future tuition that's worth $5,920. If you have any doubt about which of those you want, we recommend that you pick the education award right now because you can change your mind later. Pick the cash stipend after today, you won't be able to change your mind. The third is your health care benefit. Now, this is one that's not available to you yet today. It'll take about a week or so. But once that benefit's ready for you, you're going to need to make a decision. And you need to opt for either the health care allowance, which is now up to $7,350, or the health benefit plan if you don't have health care coverage currently, or if you're exempt from the requirement to have health coverage. In about 2 weeks or less, you'll get an email from our provider, which is called IMG, and that email will have all the information about how you can go onto their site, read about the options you have available, and how you can enroll in the one that applies to you. All right, so if you have additional questions about your benefits at any time during your Vista service, we want you to first review again the Vista Benefits Hub or the page of the campus where all that information is posted. If you can't find an answer there, then you can look through the Vista Member Handbook. And if all else fails, the Vista Member Support Unit is who you would call regarding benefits. They can help you with my.americorps.gov. They can also provide general assistance. And to reach the Vista Member Support Unit, you call the National Service Hotline, and the number is listed there on the screen.
Here are the other action items that require your immediate attention. First, if you have not already completed your onboarding paperwork in the portal, direct deposit, W-4, things like that, then you are on the verge of not entering service today. And if you especially have not accepted the terms and conditions of service, you are definitely not becoming a Vista today because those should have already been done. Second, make a copy of your VAD, your Vista assignment description, and set up a meeting to discuss the project and your service year. Third, get fingerprinted, preferably this week, and submit the criminal history questionnaire if applicable. You should have the fingerprinting materials, but if not, get them from your supervisor today. Speaking of fingerprints, as we mentioned last week, we will need your fingerprints in order to run a background check. We do this to protect the community members and volunteers we work with, yourselves included. First, you need to get fingerprinted, as we just mentioned. Second, is that when you apply to be a Vista, we ask if you have ever been convicted of a crime. You may not have disclosed everything, not just 10 years back, or because you thought a DUI is a minor traffic violation, or that you were a minor and thought that it was expunged. If you fail to disclose any conviction in your my.americorps.gov application, fill out the criminal history questionnaire that's included with the fingerprint cards and send it in as instructed. When the FBI report comes back, we will compare it to your disclosures in your application and on the form. If everything aligns and matches up, you will not hear anything from us. If there is a conviction that you have not disclosed to us, it is grounds for dismissal and we will have extensive follow-up. As we said earlier, your supervisor has fingerprint cards. Each person gets 2 fingerprint cards along with instructions. You, as a Vista member, are responsible for getting fingerprinted and submitting your fingerprints on time. The Vista program is providing you with an automatic $25 fingerprinting subsidy included in your first living allowance payment. You should also be provided a return UPS envelope, or your project may be able to pay to ship them back to Vista headquarters. Please get fingerprinted as soon as possible. Even though your deadline to submit them is Wednesday, April 18th, again, we encourage you to get them done this week if possible, because failure to submit your fingerprints within this time frame could result in termination from service. So please do not let that happen.
And just a quick word, if your supervisor doesn't have the fingerprint kit, let them know they need to reach out to their program officer at the CNCS state office to get them. They should have them already, but if not, the state office can do it. All right, so let's talk a little bit more in detail about where you can get some support. So the little graphic on the screen is a reminder of the list of resources that we provided you on the Starting Vista page on the Vista campus, of course, part of the coursework that you took earlier. Or you can just go to the Vista campus and search the term support, and it'll pop up there. It's in a printable form if that's easy for you, or you can download a PDF and save it where you can find it. That way, throughout your service year, you'll be able to reach out and connect to those who can help you. You can manage your own support by taking time to navigate the Vista campus and also looking through My AmeriCorps so that you're familiar with them and that you know where to go. And as I said earlier, when in doubt, contact the Vista Member Support Unit. We fondly call them the VMSU, and you do that by calling the National Service Hotline. All right, so now, one of the greatest things about being a Vista member is being part of this huge and extensive family of AmeriCorps Vista. And as a Vista community member, we want you to be able to show your Vista pride. You never know where you may make a connection with someone else who knows about the program. Here are some suggestions. We ask that you put the AmeriCorps Vista logo on your business card, as well as in your email signature block, and make sure that your sponsoring organization mentions us on their website and brochures the way they mention other funders or sponsors or support. The more visible you are, the more support you get for your Vista project or the AmeriCorps Vista program as a whole. So that means more Vista members and communities doing the work that needs to get done. In the chat, we're going to post some links that lead you to places where you can get AmeriCorps Vista publications and gear to use in your office and to represent Vista when you're out in the field. Also, don't forget to take pictures of what you're doing and share them through our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram accounts. We very well may share your story or pass it on to others. In a couple of weeks, you're going to get another email that has instructions for how you can order free, yes, I did say free, Vista gear. That includes a Vista polo shirt, a lapel pin, a canvas tote bag, a Vista t-shirt, a water bottle, and a journal. So in about a week or so, you'll get an email once your oath has been submitted and all your forms and everything has been completed. That email will have instructions for how you can go online and order all that great free gear. All right, so now we're getting to really the crux of today's session, and that is the oath of service. So I want to take a moment to talk about a few things so that before we get into it, you know what it's all about. The oath of service is an important step in you becoming a Vista member. Because of the importance of this topic, we're going to pause the chat at this time. We're going to be able to post instructions in the chat, so we want you to be able to look at it, but we want to make sure that everyone sees the information. So you won't be able to post in the chat right now. So if you have any questions during this oath period, please submit them through the Q&A panel, because as panelists we can see questions that come in through the Q&A, but you won't be able to send them into the chat. All right, so we're to the point now where we're going to lead you in the oath of service, and to do this, you're going to need a printed copy of the AmeriCorps Vista oath form, which your supervisor should have given to you already. But if you don't have it handy, you can print it from the Vista campus using the link that Joanne has just posted in the chat. And you're also going to need another person who can witness when you sign that oath form. They don't have to be here right now, but later when you go to sign the form, you're going to need somebody to be your witness. All right, now I have a few instructions for filling out the form. May seem really obvious, but you'd be surprised at some of the things that we get submitted to us. And the thing is the oath form is really key. And if you don't submit a correct oath, according to the instructions, it's going to result in a delay of your becoming an active Vista member. It also could delay your benefits like pay. So please pay close attention to the information. We're going to display it on the screen, and I'm going to read it aloud, so hopefully you'll be able to get it. Another word, if you don't have the oath form printed out in front of you right now, I ask that you take note of the information that we're sharing, and then after the session you can go print the form, fill it out, and sign it. I don't want you to run to the printer now because you're going to miss the oath. All right, so there are 5 boxes at the top of the oath form. This is how you fill them out. In box 1, print your full legal name. This is the name that you would have used in your My AmeriCorps application. In box 2, write in the name of the organization that is sponsoring your Vista project. It's likely the organization where you're serving, or in some cases there may be an umbrella organization that you're aware of. If you're not sure, just put the one that you know about and we'll be able to match it up. In box 3, put the city and the state where you are serving. And in box number 4, put today's date. That's 3/19/2018. That's your date entered on duty. And then in box 5, you're going to list the name of the CNCS official who's administering the oath today. That's me, Andy King. Please don't get this wrong. You need to write this on your oath form. Andy, A-N-D-Y, King, K-I-N-G. And if you don't have your oath form in front of you right now, maybe you have your cell phone, you can take a picture of the screen right now, and you can fill this information in later when you go to do your form. Okay, I think you've all got it. I know you're a sharp group. So now that those logistics are out of the way, let's consider the oath that you're about to take, because you shouldn't take it lightly. This is the same oath that all federal employees take, up to and including the Vice President. The President's oath is just a little bit different. So the oath includes the phrase, to defend the Constitution of the United States. So just a word about this. Defend, that's not necessarily a call to arms. For some people in some positions it may be, but for most of us, defense of the Constitution may be just the opposite of taking up arms. The Constitution, as you probably know, is not an administration, not even a flag. Rather, it embodies the principles that elevate us from a loosely organized group on the continent to a civil society. What we're pledging to defend is the document that contains our civil rights. Now the phrase, against all enemies. First, let's look at enemies. As community builders, as change agents, and simply as citizens, let us choose our enemies carefully. Often, an enemy can be a reflection of ourselves in a bad light. As community workers, as Vistas, as people committed to ending poverty, it's going to be more effective if we build bridges before we go about making enemies. And if we do this, all of us will profit. And in the context of Vista, of course, the enemy is what? Poverty. Okay, 2 more things about the oath. First, you may replace the word swear with the word affirm, if you so choose. And you may also omit the phrase, so help me God. All right, so I want to recognize that since we're all in different locations around the country, scattered in so many sites and so many states, we don't have the benefit of hearing each other's voices as we recite the oath. But it's pretty cool to know that you're taking the oath with scores of your fellow Vistas all across the country doing the same thing at the same time. It may seem awkward to recite the oath aloud when you're alone in a room, but really, you're taking the oath for yourself. So do it for you and make it count. All right, so now Please join me in reciting the oath aloud. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I'm about to enter, so help me God.
Congratulations. You are now a Vista member. Woohoo! We're really excited, but don't celebrate too much yet. You still have a few more important next steps. So first, make sure you sign and date the form in the area, in the white area. It says AmeriCorps Vista member signature, and put today's date as 3/19/2018. Once you've done that, please hand the oath to your supervisor or a witness and have them sign where it says witness, and also put today's date as 3/19/2018. And then, once you and your witness, who's preferably your supervisor, have signed it, please make sure you scan a copy, not a cell phone photograph, scan a copy of your oath. You want to make sure you make a PDF of the completed and signed form. It's not like depositing a check because you need to scan it so we can see a clear image. So you might want to use your office's scanner so it generates it into a PDF. Then you will attach the PDF to an email and send it to the Vista Member Support Unit. As you can see on the screen, the email is vmsu@cns.gov. And as the instructions say, you'll make sure you have a specific subject line with oath, your first name and your last name, and then the first day of service, which is today, 3/19/2018. These instructions are very important because the Vista Member Support Unit gets lots of emails and information, and they need to make sure they can correlate the email with the oath form. Again, on the next screen, as you'll see, use the subject line oath, first name, last name, 3/19/2018, and hopefully you understood that, but Andy's going to do a recap for us.
All right, so thank you, Eric, and I want to join Eric in welcoming you and congratulating you on joining AmeriCorps Vista. So to summarize these instructions, use today's date as the date entered onto Vista's duty. List me, Andy King, as the CNCS official who administered the oath. Have your witness sign just below your signature in the indicated area of the form. And then today, we want you to do this today if at all possible. Make a scan copy of the oath in a PDF format, attach it to an email, and send the email to vmsu@cns.gov. Subject line has the word oath, your name, and then 3/19/2018. Do this today if at all possible. That way we can get you activated in the system and your benefits can start flowing. All right, so we've taken care of the oath and we're just about to wind up the session, but we want to know what you thought. So you can see on the right side of the screen, we've just opened up a quick poll. There are 10 questions. You'll need to use the scroll bar to see all 10. Takes just a couple of minutes to complete. We do really use your input and evaluation to improve these sessions and also to get ideas for what you'd like to see in other webinars. So if you can, multitask, take a minute or two to fill that out. We'll leave that open through the rest of the session. And we know we've given you a lot to think about on this webinar, and you probably have some questions. So now we're going to switch to the Q&A portion of our session, and there are two ways that you can ask a question. One of them I reviewed earlier online. To the right of the slide is the Q&A panel. Of course, it's closed now that the poll is open, the evaluation poll, but you'll see Q&A just above the word polling. click the little triangle and you can reopen that. And we've got a number of questions lined up there. You can also ask a question by phone, so I'm going to invite our operator to come back on the line and give instructions for how to ask a question if you dialed in on the phone.
Thank you. At this time, if you'd like to ask a question over the phone lines, please press star, then 1, and record your first and last name clearly when prompted. Again, to ask a question over the phone, please press star, then 1 at this time. Thank you.
All right, thanks. While we're waiting for questions to come in online, some of you provided us questions in advance of the webinar, so I want to start with a couple of those. One of the questions that I saw was, hey, I'm trying to print out a copy of my service letter. I need it so I can include it with an application, and I'm not able to generate it. Why? Well, the thing is, right now, in your account in My AmeriCorps, your account is not yet activated because we don't have your oath form. We've got to get your oath form, make sure everything else is in order before we can activate you. Once that happens, and that should be within the next week, I mean, probably by the end of this week, if not sooner, you'll notice a number of things that will now be accessible in your account in My AmeriCorps. One of them is the service letter, and it describes the Vista program, and it lists your name and your service start date, and confirms that you are a participant in the AmeriCorps Vista program. Another question I have here says, I need to know what to do about loan forbearance and other ways to manage my student loans. So again, once you're activated, by the end of this week most likely, you will be able to go into My AmeriCorps. On the left side menu under Education Award, there's a sub-menu and you'll see an option for forbearance requests. You click on that link and it will open up a form that you can fill out. It will ask you for the name of an institution. And the institution they're talking about is whoever holds your loan. So it's the lender or the lending institution. There's a drop-down list that you can use to choose. And remember, it has to be a federal student loan. Put it in National Service Forbearance. Fill in the other information and submit the request there. The other options around student loans, we don't have time to go into in detail, but you can Google these terms. One is called income-based repayment, sometimes known as IBR. Another is called public service loan forgiveness, PSLF, public service loan forgiveness. So those two strategies can be used together along with forbearance to help you manage your student loans during your Vista service year. All right, so let me turn to Karen to see if we have any questions on the phone line.
Thank you. At this time, there are no questions, but once again, please press star, then 1 if you'd like to ask a question over the phone lines.
So, Angie, I did see one question that came in kind of in general terms about additional training that Vistas might have to attend. Kind of the quick answer is, as part of this virtual member orientation, this is your official AmeriCorps Vista orientation, the training that we, the AmeriCorps Vista program, provide you. If any of you were told that you have trainings that you have to go to in person or additional online trainings, you should check with your supervisor, because oftentimes we have Vista projects where after the training we conduct, your supervisor might have a statewide or a national training they want to send you to get to know other Vista members and part of your work. So please make sure to check with your supervisor first, and if they're not sure, then you can come back to us. But this is your onboarding initial orientation that we, AmeriCorps Vista, provide you.
Great, thank you. Maria had a question. She says, what week does the paying week fall in? I think she means, when are we going to get paid as a Vista? So you probably know that you will get paid every 2 weeks. Our pay periods run from a Sunday to Saturday, the week following. So it's 14 days that fall into a pay period. You're starting on Monday, the second day of this pay period. And your first payday will be on Friday, April 6th. Vista paydays are always on Fridays unless there's a holiday, and you'd be notified if that were the case. And so you'll work or serve for 2 weeks, and then the following Friday after the end of that pay period is when you'll receive your living allowance payment.
Great. There's another question, somewhat in relation to pay, but in relation to relocation and settling in. If you are a Vista member who's been approved to relocate and get what we call a settling in allowance, that settling in allowance will come as part of, included with your first living allowance paycheck. So as Andy said, your first pay date should be Friday, April 6th. So for those of you who are relocating and you'll be getting the settling in allowance, that will also come on Friday, April 6th. You would know if you're relocating because you would have gotten an email from the Vista Member Support Unit with details about that. But if you do have any specific questions about relocation, as Andy said earlier, you can contact the VMSU by going through the National Service Hotline to clarify or get further details on that relocation.
Right, and then I'll mention if you're relocating, there's another part of relocation assistance that's based on the number of miles that you relocate. That payment will come about 6 to 8 weeks after you submit your signed voucher to the Vista Member Support Unit. So you probably received some communication, some email from the VMSU. They provide a relocation travel voucher through your account in My AmeriCorps. You need to print that off, sign it, and send it in according to the instructions. Once they've got it, it'll be processed. It takes typically around 6 weeks for that to show up in your bank account. Let's see, Renee has a question. And Renee, I'm glad to see you on the session, on the webinar. How many terms can you serve at the same Vista assignment? Well, 2 parts to this. One is there's an overall limit of 5 terms of Vista service. So you can serve up to 5 full Vista year-long terms as a Vista. But how many times can you serve at the same organization? Well, that's up to them. It can't be more than 5, obviously. But if you wanted to serve again after you complete your year, then you would need to talk to your supervisor or maybe the project director at your Vista project site and see what their plans are, if they're recruiting another Vista member, if they need the same skills as you have. Because oftentimes, over the course of a Vista project, the nature of the work shifts from year to year. Maybe the first year is setting up the program, the second year might be doing a lot of outreach and communication, building partnerships, and then the third year might have a different set of work. It could be about sustainability or about fundraising. So they might be looking for different skill sets each year. Just because you're a good fit this year doesn't necessarily mean you'll be the right fit next year. So talk to your Vista supervisor about that. But definitely we know that once you've served as a Vista, you've got some great experience, you've built some tremendous skills, so you're an asset, whether it makes sense at the same organization or another one.
Thank you, Andy. Kayla, I might be pronouncing her name wrong, but asks a question about, is it true that serving as a Vista member makes you a possible candidate for a federal government position? Without going into a whole lot of detail, yes, it is true. The nuances are, first, you have to successfully complete your full year of service. When you do, you get what we call NCE, which is short for non-competitive eligibility, which is a one-year status that gives you a potential better chance at getting a federal job. It's not a guarantee, but if a federal agency is trying to hire more quickly or faster, if they want, they can specifically only search for people who have this NCE status and bring you through the hiring process much quicker. So it is something that's valid for 1 year after your year of service. It could be extended up to a total of 3 years depending on the federal hiring agency, but that's part of the reason why we say you serve for 365 days and we want to see you actually complete your full year, not just because you're helping your community, but also it gives you full access to all of your benefits.
Right, and just to underscore, it doesn't guarantee you a position. It just gives you the option to apply for a federal position, almost like as an inside candidate. You still have to have all the skills and background or experience necessary to qualify for the position. Let's turn back to the phone lines. Karen, do we have anybody with questions queued up?
Yes, thank you. Our first question comes from Erika. Ma'am, your line is open.
Hi, Erika.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
I'm great, and you?
I'm doing great. I had a really difficult time joining the webinar, but I had a quick question about, is there any way that you can email us the email that you want us to scan the oath and send us PDF and email it to you all?
I'm sorry, to email you what?
Is there any way you can email the link where you would like us to submit the oath form?
Yeah, the instructions are at the bottom of the oath form. So do you have the form?
Oh, yes. I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the form. So if you...
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it.
Trouble, no worries. I know you weren't able to get into the WebEx, so you couldn't see it online, but all the information, and this goes for everyone, the instructions for where to send that oath form is on the bottom of the form.
Okay, I see it. It's VMSU. Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have someone else on the phone?
Thank you. At this time, there are no further questions.
Okay, great. So again, if you're on the phone and you want to ask a question, you can press *1. Make sure your phone is unmuted, record your name when prompted, and Karen will let us know. So Eric, do you see any other questions that we have that has been submitted that we haven't had a chance to answer yet?
I'm just scrolling back through. I think we've answered just about all of them. I know there were some people that had follow-up questions, but it looks like all the ones online so far. Thanks to Jessica and Calvin, our coworkers, as well, for adding in their responses.
So yeah, just I don't know if there's anything in there that we didn't have a chance to say out loud that might be useful for everyone else to see or hear.
So I see Malia asked about health insurance. We do sometimes have Vista members who, for example, might turn 26 in the middle of their year of service, or for whatever reason their health insurance ends. What do you do? So first I'll quickly say that the health insurance options that are on vistacampus.gov, you get one or the other. So if you, as you said, if you have insurance, you can opt for the health insurance allowance that reimburses you up to the roughly $7,000. But if you do not have insurance, and if you are one of the Americans exempt by the Affordable Care Act, then you can join our health benefit plan. So to answer the specific question, if you have insurance, as long as you have insurance, at least in your case, Malia, partway through your service, you can use that up to $7,000 towards your health insurance while you have your own insurance. Once you go off your insurance, you might want to check to see if you happen to be exempt. If not, you'll need to procure your own insurance either through the healthcare marketplace or through some other option. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, feel free to post a follow-up, and I'll try to address it here or offline. But
yeah, the other thing I'll add to that, Eric, is healthcare is complicated. It's oftentimes this is when they come into the program, this is the first time they've had to think about or worry about it on their own. It's maybe always been taken care of in the past. So our healthcare provider is a company called IMG, or International Medical Group. They're great. I mean, they're experts in this. And so if you have questions or not sure what you need to do to enroll, or if you've got a question like the one we just heard from someone who said, hey, my coverage is going to end partway through, what do I do? IMG is a tremendous resource. They'll be sending you an email in about a week to 10 days It'll invite you to go to their website, read about the benefits that are available to you, create an account, and enroll in one of those benefits. It also has their contact details, so if you want to ask a question, you can chat online, you can give them a call, you can send an email. They've got really knowledgeable staff.
And I see there was another question that came in about loan forgiveness. If there's more details, feel free to post a follow-up. But essentially what you need to know is if you have a federal student loan, in about a week or so you'll have a new link in your my.americorps.gov account. The new link will say My Education Award. You'll click on that link, and then you'll see a link to submit your loan forbearance request. Again, it does have to be a federal loan to be in our forbearance, and you have to actually actualize the request. It's not automatic. So just be aware that if you select the Education Award as your inter-service benefit, then you'll be able to put your loans into forbearance in about a week or so. And the other details that Andy had talked about, such as public service loan forgiveness and income-based repayment, all those details are on the Vista campus, but you can also Google search them because those you don't need to know right this second, but once you put them into forbearance, it'll help you to get the details around those.
Right, and of course the benefits page will direct you to our information site about the AmeriCorps Education Award, but there's a lot more in that site than just the Ed Award. It's got information on other loan strategies like income-based repayment, loan forgiveness. Do we have any other questions on the phone?
There are no questions on the phone lines.
Okay, great. All right, so a couple more questions about living allowance payment. First of all, Janika says, will our first pay come as a check or will it get deposited? Well, it depends on you. If you filled out your direct deposit information in My AmeriCorps, and I'm assuming that most of you did, then your first living allowance payment will be direct deposited on Friday, April 6th. If you opt to decline direct deposit, then be aware that the check, the paper check is going to be printed, is going to be sent to you at your Vista service site. It's not going to come to your home address. So just make sure that if you're getting it sent to you there, that whoever's in the mailroom knows who you are and they're not going to send that check back. Let's see. There's another question that says, I know that federal taxes are taken out of our living allowance, but how do we go about paying state taxes? Great question. Let's see, I can't see who sent that, but whoever sent it in, great question. And he's absolutely right, or she. We do withhold federal income tax withholdings from each of pay, but not for state taxes. So what you're going to want to do is go to the website of the Department of Taxation for the state where you're serving and look for the tax table. Tax table shows typically that if you, earn between $0 and $5,000 and you're single filing individually, your tax amount will be X. If you make, so for each different level of earnings, and depending on your filing status, whether it's single or married filing jointly or separately, it will tell you how much state income tax you would be responsible for paying. Many Vistas, based on the amount they're going to earn this year, will not be responsible for very much in state taxes. But you're going to want to know how much it is so that you can put a little bit aside. So next year in April, when your taxes are due, you'll have the money on hand to pay for those state taxes.
And in terms of direct deposit, there was a question about I was not able to upload a copy of my check. You don't need to actually upload a voided check. That image on the screen was just to show you that you just need to make sure that you correctly enter your routing number and your bank account number correctly. So as long as you type in those numbers correctly, as Andy said earlier, and you save it and it shows saved in your system, you should be good to go. But just triple check to make sure it's the correct account number and routing number.
And let's see, Elaine says, how will I know if I submitted my info correctly? I'm sure I did, but is there a cutoff date before payday to make sure? And actually there is. So for you to make any change to your direct deposit information or say your tax withholdings, you would need to do that by Monday, the end of the day Monday, prior to a Friday pay date in order for those changes to go into effect. Because we run payroll on a Tuesday, and when that's happening, you're not able to make a change, and anything you make after that will go into effect in the following pay period. So again, make any changes by Monday of the week when you're going to get paid on that Friday in order for that to take effect. Let's see, one last call to see if we have any questions on the phone.
There are no questions on the phone lines.
Okay. Let's see, we've got the last couple questions coming in. WebEx. Alexandria asked, is there a way to do split direct deposits? And unfortunately, there's not. Our system only allows us to have all of your pay go in directly into one account. But some banks have the ability for you to set up an automatic payment. So if you wanted to transfer money from one account to another, you might be able to set that up through your bank's online banking. And I think that's it. That's all the questions I see. Eric, is there anything else that we did not cover that we should?
I went back through and looked at all the questions, and it looks like we either answered them verbally or our staff answered them in writing. So I think at this point we can move on.
Okay. Well, great questions, everyone. Thank you for submitting those, and thank you for all of your participation during the chat and the other activities.
And, of course, throughout the entire webinar, even though we know it's required, thank you for your participation today. We really and truly want to welcome you to the AmeriCorps Vista program and wish you much success. We want to leave you with this quote from Lyndon Johnson. On your idealism and on your success rests much of our hope for the final elimination of poverty in our American life. Thank you, everyone.
And have a great year of service.